Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. Morgan Hample with Hammer and Hample, James and Jake with the placement funds. Appreciate you for taking the time to listen to our newest offering, The Grove at Hickman, a 203 unit value add multifamily deal in Des Moines, Iowa. As always, we are not accountants or CPAs, and these are projections. Cannot guarantee these numbers. We've done quite a bit of work to present to you and put this to you together here today. So for today, we're going to talk about the team, overall summary of the deal, talk about the market and local submarket, the neighborhood that we're in, overall strategy for the deal, some finances, and then talk about some next steps.
Yeah, due to time, I'll give a quick overview of who we are. But Jake and I are with the placement funds. We founded the company and managing partners. We hit the ground running. We raised $100 million for a development project pretty quick, but have since focused on a model of we give our clients a fixed 10% compounded annual return on a 4-year note, and we take that capital and go outperform with it. And we're anchoring our funds with multifamily. We really like it. We've acquired a few other things, but we really like multifamily. And we have an opportunity today. And I say that in a real sense because we closed on this property in December of 2023. And we had a client that is our largest investor approach us for personal reasons and ask if we'd be willing to buy him out or return his capital at his basis point. So you might see an advertisement of a $5 million opportunity, a $5 million opportunity. Really, that's a $3 million opportunity. Jake and I acquired a service company a week before this asset at a $60 million valuation, and we're getting rolled up on October 1st for an $85 million exit, and we're going to put $2 million of our own money towards this $5 million. So there's a $3 million opportunity for this. If you wonder where we all come together is that JC spoke on it a little bit earlier. We believe that, this is Jake and I's first time in the Des Moines market. And so where Morgan comes into play is that he's already 500 units deep, including owning the properties closest to this, and is already experiencing and executing this business plan. So we believe in giving up a little to secure an investment. And that's where Morgan comes into play from an operations standpoint. So I'll turn the rest of the time over to Morgan and Jake, but if we have any more questions, I'll give you a little bit more of our background.
I appreciate it. So as James said, so I'm one of the co-founders of Hammer and Hample. To date, we've been a lead on a little under 500 units, all in the Des Moines metro market, and then as well as a co-GP with Rob and team on the Houston 3-pack. So overall, taking a look at the project. So it's a 1973 build, 203 units over 3.5 acres. Total purchase price was $13.2 million. CapEx budget $2.1 million. We assumed a 10-year fixed, 10-year note at $8.7 million. It was fixed for 5 years, 3 years of interest only. We took over at the 2-year mark, so we're wrapping up that last final year of IO. Right now, so through this project, we took it over from a very distressed owner, lackadaisical owner, absent property management, and the real value add is just elbow grease, love and care and attention into the project. So first major hurdle of this was getting rid of a lot of the riffraff and the damaging tenants that ruined the reputation and really caused a lot of damage to the property. So over the last 9 months, we've actually successfully evicted over 60 tenants, right? So occupancy you see right now, 68%. So that is just above our trough that we saw come through this summer, where we hit the trough of right around 63 to 65%. Since then, we're starting to see that climb out, and the value add that we're putting in with security, present property management, and really just the nuts and bolts of taking care of your asset is already starting to pay off. So for the overall financing and business plan. So on the sources and uses, senior debt, as I was saying, assumed a loan $8.7 million. LP equity total $7 million. GP equity $1 million. Total capital stack 16.7. On the uses side, 13.2 on the purchase price. Closing costs 6.5. Excuse me, 650,000. Acquisition right around the same. CapEx reserves 2.2 million, rounding out the 16.7 in total uses. So when it comes to the actual lending, going a little further in depth, so loan to value 65.9%, loan to cost at total capitalization just over 50%, so nice low leverage. The project right now, this base case is underwritten at a 5-year hold, but we do have a great option to either refinance or sell at year 3. After year 3, we will be starting to pay principal and interest, and that year 5, the floating rate kicks in and goes to the wildly well known, the Des Moines fixed advanced 5-year rate. So if you don't track that on a daily basis, it is currently at 3.57, and the lender has our Lincoln, our partners over at Lincoln Savings Bank are having a 230 spread on that. So pretty comfortable spot to be in right now, even though it's floating. But the plan right now would be to either plan A, just hold until 5 years and sell, or depending on refinance, sell at 3 or refinance at 5. So looking at your overall investments, we try to keep our investments pretty simple. So we have a single hurdle, 8% preferred return, and then a 70-30 split. There is a GP catch-up at the end on a capital event of refi or exit. But overall, we're looking at a levered IRR just shy of 20%, cash on cash right around 8%, equity multiple at 2.24x, and an assumed exit cap of 675. We backed into 675. Typically on our deals, we assume a 10 basis point increase on market entry. So even though this is a distressed asset, the going in cap rate is fairly irrelevant. Market we see in Des Moines right now is right around the low 6s. So our exit cap we assumed at 675. So now taking a look around Des Moines. If you're not intimately familiar with the area, oftentimes when I bring up that we invest in Des Moines, people say, who is Des Moines? But it is a great foundation, an investment market in a tier 2 type city. So overall, market size is just under $1 million at 750,000 people. When we first started investing there back in 2020, the thing that we really liked about it was how well it performed in 2008. And the reason why we're trying to figure out why did Des Moines do so well in 2008, aka just really stagnated, vice plummeting, was because of the job sector. So the employment base in Des Moines, Iowa is agriculture, it's medical, it's finance, and it's insurance. A little known fact about Des Moines is that it is the #1 insurance hub in the country and #3 in the world. There are 81 individual insurance companies that are headquartered in Des Moines, which brings in a lot of very secure capital and a lot of secure jobs that can weather lots of storms. So even though Des Moines, you'll make a strong argument, will never look like Dallas, it'll never look like Salt Lake City, it'll never look like Phoenix, but when it comes to cash flowing, great basis assets, it is a very strong market to be in for investors who like cash on cash type returns. Not to mention, other people are following suit. Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, all investing multi-billion dollars into data centers. Because similar to Texas, we have a lot of land at great basis. So it's not just us that are investing in Des Moines. Some of our major tech stocks are coming with. Locally, we have a project just down the street, 136 units, where we've successfully implemented this exact business plan with basic cleanup and whatnot. And our workforce housing is filled with 3 hospitals that are nearby and Drake University, which is a huge supplier of our workforce housing. Going into some of the other business plan items. So as I was saying, this project here we're not reinventing the wheel. It is a lot of just paying attention to what previous ownership and previous asset management wasn't doing. I'm actually going to skip over to our pro forma just to show the damage that they did trailing on vacancy, concessions, and bad debt. When you look at the market rents that we're getting right now without turning the units, we're already pretty much at market. The plan isn't $10,000 per unit on renovations and then jacking up a $250 rent premium. Right now, we raised for a $10,000 per unit rent premium, but we're not executing it because we're getting it naturally with normal unit turns. So that's all just cash in the bank right now, ready to deploy as needed. The plan is operate the project, be present ownership, be present asset management, and present property management, address the vacancy, address the concessions, and address the bad debt. And we're already seeing that. We hit the trough in June, and we're already climbing out of it. We're expecting to be at 90% occupied by the end of the year, and plan on calling stabilized around end of Q1, Q2 2025. CapEx schedule. People love us. QR code.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Can you go back to the CapEx budget actually a little bit?
Yeah.
And then come back to the QR code because I just want to. Okay. Now I'm going to be a little less nice. So I hope that's okay. So I don't like how you start actually reading the disclaimer. I don't like that because you're the sponsor. You should own to your project. You should, stay true to your projection. Maybe put that on the last slide or don't even talk about it, So that's my first impression. Second is 1973, 68% occupancy. I think you have a great story to tell here about the room for improvement, right? But I don't really hear what's the problem for the 68% occupancy. Is it property specific or a market specific, a sub-market specific? You did show a map with where everything is located, but I don't know how many of you have been to this city. I have never been to, so I would love more your due diligence and investigation on the property level specifically. For example, I actually talked to a tenant, they say it's this, ABC, and this is my solution for ABC. So I think I would really appreciate that a little more. I look at your source and uses. I think it would be helpful if you break down a little more on the uses part, because I'm sure you have more specific than that. And that shows you have done a lot of work on the budgeting. For example, the acquisition fee, 5% is really high. That's something I would ask myself, okay, how much are you taking? How much are you paying other people, Are you already, getting a lot of upfront fees, So I would love more items on the uses item to show, Lastly, I would say I would love to see sensitivity analysis, or how if the occupancy does not reach, this at that year, what are we gonna do? What does it look like? When I hear about your business plan, it was kind of exciting to hear, but it was more kind of like more deal specific, I think, on the financing. But I don't see you as operator bringing the value there. But of course, I think it's on this slide. You just don't have time to talk about. But overall, very good. And sorry about I'm not very nice for the. Yes.
That's how we get better.
If that's your mean, then we would like to be friends with you. We'd like to. We'd like to yeah,
No, I agree. It's a really nice presentation. Full disclosure, I've actually already reviewed this deal, so a lot of the questions I'm going to ask, I already know the answers to. But some things I would bring up are, if you guys are vertically integrated, or who your property management team is, what they had done prior, in the last 12 months since you acquired the property, and also if there's going to be real estate, reassessments or assessments or anything that's going on in the county. If I don't know if that was put in the pro forma. I didn't notice it, but if that's something I think is always helpful, to put in, because for me that's always something I always look at to see if there's spot reassessment or if there's any like 3-year cycles on reassessment, because that can obviously make or break a project. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I know almost everything about this deal already. So.
Hello. Hi. So I've been on Shark Tank a number of years already, and and for some reason I have a reputation of destroying people here. And I don't know why that is, but most people said they were worthy of it. So I don't think that's the case this year. So I have a couple of questions. Number one is, I think I heard you said that you have 500 units, that you control 500 units already. Is that correct?
Just under,
Okay.
including this, but yeah.
Including that, okay. It's not considered a lot, right? So how many years have you been doing this together?
So this is our first deal together. We started our syndication 4 years ago. So we've been full cycle on one deal, and then we have two other assets, 106 units, and then the 136 that I alluded to is just down the street that we bought.
I don't know about you people, but when it comes to investing, do you invest more in the horse or in the jockey? We had through this, I kind of like the jockey first before I look at the horse. So that's really what I wanted to know if your experience in terms of managing this, right? So, and it might address, Ella, it might address the issue of when you bought this property, what was the occupancy?
The occupancy was at 80, but economic occupancy was around 50%. And so as we've
When you
owned
say
it,
occupancy, economic, you mean the people who are paying, actually paying?
physical 80%, economic 50.
And who was the previous owner? Was it a private owner or a government?
Yeah, private.
Private, interesting, okay.
Which is, oh, sorry.
So generally, if I were looking at this deal, and I am, I probably wouldn't invest. It's a little bit too old for me. And because you have CapEx, and CapEx, in my opinion, on a property like this, I think, like I said, that if I'm not investing, that doesn't mean it's a bad deal. But I wouldn't invest in this because it's too old. And I think that the piping and the roofing and the electrical and so forth are so outdated that I think your CapEx is light. And I think you will have more expenses. Now, based on if you actually get your rents up, you might be able to handle it. What I'm saying to you is that this is not necessarily a bad deal. It's the reason that I wouldn't invest in this deal is because it's very old. I probably wouldn't invest in anything than a 1985 or something like that, 85, 90. That's number one. Number two is I think your CapEx is a little bit low. And with reference to your underwriting, even though you flash it up there, you wrote something, and when you invest with a sponsor, right, you're not only investing in the horse, but you're investing in their underwriting, right? That you guys know what you're doing, that you know how to underwrite. And I'm going to be buying a budget, and I'm assuming that that budget is good, right? That you carefully underwrote it. And I felt that when I saw one word here that constructively turned me off, right? And the word is may or will. And somewhere in there, I don't know what page it was, you said these numbers will change. And I would say the numbers may change, right? Someplace, I don't know, you flip back, someplace it said that these numbers will change. And why would you say that? If your underwriting is tight and the market's indicating that are strong, that this should be a coupon clipper to the investor. This is what I'm investing, and this is what I'm getting. You're telling me the numbers are going to change. They shouldn't change. They may change, but you write the word will. If you check it back there, you wrote that. It disturbed me. So you might want to flip back. You see, I caught it. It was right here somewhere. Here. Actual returns will vary from the projections shown. I don't know why I caught that, okay? But it like jumped out at me. And I said, wait a minute. That would concern me if I saw that, right? So I'm giving you advice. You should, people are buying your underwriting, and they're investing in you guys, and you should have a lot of confidence and stand behind it. And therefore, that would concern me that you wrote that. And the second is its age. And like Ella, I would be concerned if you are changing the demographic, that's the right word, demographic of the tenants who live there in terms of their income and paying and so forth. That all makes sense to me. I've had that situation. So for those reasons, I'm out.
Are you okay if I speak to that in one moment? So as somebody that's writing a $2 million check in the next 2 weeks on this property, if you ever have the battle of sales and operations, you have sales that want these numbers to be a little bit better looking than they currently are in the underwriting, and we have operations that want to underpromise and over-deliver as much as possible. So when I see the will on that portion, that's, we're trying to find another extra $1 million before the guy changes his mind at his original basis point. So we're looking at it a little bit more optimistically, but that's if not to make an excuse, but a little inside a battle between sales and operations on that side. But we appreciate that.
I actually do like this deal. Age doesn't scare me, and I imagine access to the data room would probably have your PCA in phase 1, and so you could really get to see what has been done to see if that 2.1 is light or not. Obviously you can't do that in 10 minutes. But the other statement I wanted to make too was what is the employee demographics currently right now?
I mean, the bulk of it's going to be, so there's a lot, so there's a decent amount of manufacturing throughout.
I'm sorry, tenant demographics, like on site.
Oh, like the tenant base, like where do they work?
What is?
Oh, age.
Yeah, like students. Yeah.
So I mean, it's upper 30s, small families. It's only 1-1s and 2-1s, so we don't have full families of 4 or 5 in there. But you'll see on our younger end, actually, due to the close proximity of Drake, there's probably 5 to 8% of is actually student population, but then the bulk of it's going to be late 20s to late 30s with small or no family workforce housing.
Would there be a push to market towards potentially like Drake or?
Yes and no. It's something we'd have to evaluate. When we bought the property down the street, depending on what we're looking at for recapitalization at year 3, if we eclipse a 10% student housing, we're now classified as student housing, and so then your debt coverage turns to 135, which can strain proceeds. So it's something to obviously consider. We have been avoiding that at Drake down the street just for that exact reason. But if push comes to shove and we need to fill it, like if we don't get the occupancy up that we need to with our normal tenant base, and we need to run to the university, right, and work out a deal with them to get more students, then we need to be prepared to have a higher debt coverage for our refi.
I think you can do it with grad students too. I don't think you have to. I think that's an exception.
Are you gonna work back? Oh, you like it?
We
Huh?
I'll take it.
No, I'm talking about if you could, is this a deal you would,
I like for.
I'm not putting you on the spot that you have to write a check.
Yeah,
Just
no,
saying.
I liked it. The loan assumption. I like the hold.
If if I gave you money, would you invest?
I would be a little nervous about the green of the group. That'll be my one hesitation, and it's not vertically integrated. So.
And final question. Good. I have a couple questions actually.
Correct.
I've never seen a varying yield on cost. Obviously, we're on the sponsor side. I don't bet. I don't bet that side. So I'd be curious to know that. Also, you didn't touch on the entrance cap rate. I know it's very abbreviated, but what was the entrance cap rate? Out of curiosity.
The entrance cap rate was sub 1. It was a distressed asset. So it's not, I mean, yeah, there NOI, trailing 6 NOI was on a month-by-month basis was 0 or below 0, approaching it. So it was in a pretty rough spot. The varying stabilized yield on cost is based on the low end. So we're calling on our projections stabilization around year 3. And so that was the low band of our stabilized yield on cost. And by the time we exit year 5, that was the high band. So as NOI ideally continues to grow throughout the project, that was the upper and lower bands.
Okay, thank you.
I'm somewhat familiar with Des Moines a little bit because I went to Iowa State there, but where, go Clones. Where this is located is kind of a crime area. It's in the lower side. And I didn't hear about how you're going to take care of that, and the tenant demographics kind of support that crime area. How do you handle that?
Well, the crime area was this property. We have now come in with 360 fencing. We've come in with security cameras. We've come in full-time security. We've implemented car passes until our fences and gates came up, and we've evicted 66 tenants. We've laid down the law, so to speak, and that is very present and illustrated in our reviews. So.
For what it's worth, is also like as much hair as this deal had on it, it was part of the reason why we liked it. So the deal that we just did down the street, very similar issues. It was a struggling asset with crime locally inside the walls, and it took ownership actually investing in security, investing in a team of property management who's actually gonna hold tenants accountable and go through the pain of working with the city and getting evictions done to turn it around. And now 2.5, approaching 3 years of ownership there, we've been 95% occupied on a month-by-month basis, fully stabilized, and the asset's been great. So it's a challenge for anybody, but I mean, this is one that if we're gonna put our name at like, hey, we are these guys, we are Des Moines multifamily investors, we know how to take these ugly assets and, you know, turn them around. And a lot of them in this area they have localized crime within it, but Des Moines as a whole is not an area that has a lot of crime. Like, the hood in Des Moines is like suburbia elsewhere, right? So it's, the relative crime is not that bad at all. And through I mean, as Alan alluded to, like, we don't have a laundry list of experience. I don't have any gray hair, but in the little experience we do have, this has been the field that it's been in.
My suggestion is, if you, it's hard to raise money after a closing. Logically, it sounds like it should be easy, because you're proving the concept already. I would suggest, if you're really having trouble, I would change your promote schedule for this one. You know, and I'd go to a 9 prep, an 80-20, and therefore incentivize people to join you for this ride. That's what I would do. Give them the incentive, and I think people would invest more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
I would highlight that you bought it at 10,000 a door. Where can you buy 10,000 a door?
65,000 a door. That was the
65.
Yeah, that was the reservation discount. Yeah, 65 a door.
You may be thinking about the mobile home.
Oh.
By definition.
And then I want to hear about the growth of Des Moines.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been on a percentage basis, it's the fastest growing city in the Midwest.
That's all I want to hear about. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, but this is all minutia if it's growing.
Yeah.
That's a 10-minute handicap on it, unfortunately. It's all consolidated in defense to them. Hunter, final question?
Yeah, it's a recap of the current equity, right?
Correct.
Okay.
At base.
Can you put up the fee structure real quick? Or I guess in short, is there fees associated with this purchase?
There was the acquisition fee and guarantee fee.
Okay, so I'm assuming we got the acquisition fee on the first go around.
Correct.
So like that's something that I'm sure would come up as well, is that the work you did to acquire the asset, you know, most investors are gonna make the case that you're not gonna go through that work again. I'm sure you've done that before. How do you kind of respond to that?
In terms of, sorry, I'm not sure.
You already have the asset, so you're just getting another acquisition fee, so.
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
So that was only at actual acquisition, and the thing is, it feels like that he's doing us a favor, or sorry, it feels like, I mean, this investor that we're working with, we're doing him a favor, right? They're in the deal. Obviously, the change of circumstances is really unfortunate, and due to personal relationships, like, we want to help him out, but this is not a second closing. Worst case scenario, he's in, quite frankly.
I see.
Right, and we're gonna continue operating, business plans in motion. We are in a great cash position, but due to that relationship and wanting to do right by a friend, right, we wanna buy him out, and he's working with us and allowing whoever comes in to fill the seat at original basis.
I see. That's why I was confused, because I didn't know if it was another.
No,
Yeah,
no,
makes sense.
definitely not.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome, well, thank you so
All
much.
right, thanks, guys.